Hello, my name is Tori Smith, and I would like to do a report specifically regarding MILAB child trafficking for the first weekend of November, November the 6th and 7th, 2015. On this day, 156 children were gang raped and then murdered in 14 locations of MILABs, including Crawfordsville, Texas, Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Indianapolis, Grand Rapids, Denver, Wilmington, Delaware, Roswell, New Mexico, Los Angeles, Boston, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York. Well, the New York location is not a MILAB. They have, if you go into the UN building, I always say stories, but it's actually levels down. It's the 10th level down in the basement of the UN building. They have to have a special place at the UN because so many world politicians love to rape children, and so they just supply them like you would just call and order a pizza. It's basically like when the Vatican was here, DARPA provided 14 children for them to rape and murder. 90% of these children were Mexican, and the other 10% were African American. And those are the two specific groups that are targeted the most, especially Mexicans, because they're undocumented. And it's so easy for them. Like, let's say a family of 5 walks across the border, mother, father, and 3 kids. When ICE, which is a child trafficking corporation, if they get them, they can just immediately separate the children from the parents. What are the parents going to do? I mean, they've walked to this country, with nothing, hoping for, to try to get some or earn some money or whatever. They have absolutely no resources to say, well, where are our children? Well, it'll be a while till you see them, so don't worry about it. Is what, things like that is what they tell these people. And there's nothing they can do. They can't have no money. They don't have money to eat. How are they going to hire an attorney or do anything? And 3% of these children were brought in by Child Protective Services. All these children are drugged and tied up. They keep the children in cages until they're ready to be brought out. And they drug them, and then they bring them out, and they strap them down to these table beds, and that's where they take turns raping them. And then one person, they actually compete to see who gets to kill the child, because they like to choke children to death, and they like that moment of death to be the same time as they ejaculate into the child. Of course, Barack Obama was there. Mr. Obama has, it was 251. Yeah, he's 251 children Barack Obama has murdered during forced intercourse. Well, Bush Sr.'s done it to over 500. And other people with real high numbers, like Benjamin Netanyahu, he was like close to 400, who's actually a good friend of child rapist and child murderer, Indiana's Mike Pence. Netanyahu and Pence have raped children together. Well, Pence has pretty much raped a child, little boy. He loves to rape little boys. He raped and murdered another boy last night. But one of these children on the weekend of the November 6th and 7th was named Joquanda. She was from Houston, Texas. She lived on the north side of town. This little girl was raped 516 times. She was abducted in Houston, taken to the Houston MILAB where she was raped, and then a Bush family member took her from Houston to Dallas, and Dallas is where she was murdered. There were 17 Bush family members present there, and the little Joquanda, who was a 13-year-old girl, was murdered by Neil Bush, George W.'s brother. And this is no way for children to die. I mean, I really am starting to believe that no one really cares about child trafficking. No, I don't think Americans really care about children in general. I know a few people do. There are a few people in this country that don't like to see children being raped and murdered. But DARPA had put out a video on YouTube celebrating the Year of the Children of the Light. Isn't that precious? People who rape and murder children actually have the balls to put out a video saying, "We are celebrating our children of the light." You're celebrating by raping and murdering them for cash profit, corporate gain. and military. Well, they used to do all this in exchange for the this group was called the Greys, and who have high technology. And what they would do is the military would trade human children for weapons technology. That's one of the biggest reasons why all this is occurring, because people wanted the military here just wanted basically more ways to kill people. And after I had posted what had happened to Joquanda, and she was raped 516 times and murdered by Neil Bush, I had come up to the kitchen. I was standing by the sink, and Joquanda came in from heaven. And because the first thing I heard was, I heard her before I saw her, and she said well, now everyone in heaven's 30 years old, and she came in as a really beautiful 30-year-old woman. And she said, I'm going to try to do her voice. She spoke, her voice to me was soft like a poet, and she had like a little bit of an accent. And she said, honey, when you get home to heaven, I'm going to give you the biggest hug you ever had. Of course, that was not for me. I started crying. I was really upset. But she made it home okay. And we chatted for a little while, and I asked, are you okay? Did you make it? And she said yes, and that as soon as she left her body, she went into the tunnel, and just almost instantly she was greeted by angels who escorted her back to heaven. And then I asked her, I said, well, did you go to the Hall of Meditation? And she said, well, as a matter of fact, I did. And I asked her what side she sat on, because in the Hall of Meditation it's like a skyscraper. And it has 4 sides, and each side faces a different direction. One towards the ocean, one towards the mountains, one toward the prairie, and one towards the forest. And I asked her what side she sat on. She said, well, I sat on the ocean side. And I was like, how was the water that day? She said, oh, it was crystal clear, light blue, and the waves were just perfect. And I was meditating and doing healing and for myself, and just listening to the waves roll in, and it was nice. And we spoke about some other things, and then she went back to heaven. And last night was a really rough night. Well, the child traffickers are injecting me with weapons-grade anthrax, and they've done it thousands of times. And yesterday I got raped by 6 FBI agents. It was a pretty tough day. Typical around here, though, unfortunately. Good old Indiana, land of men who rape and murder children. Thank you.